Boros Convoke deck is probably the finest deck I have ever had the opportunity to play with in Pioneer. And the reason is because it hits so fast, so furious, it has literally become the Vin Diesel of decks. You can hear that in the background. An EMT and an ambulance are being rushed to someone's house as we speak, because this is the fastest deck ever to be created. It's so much so that it will give people heart attacks and leave them hospitalized. Now, I'm not saying this could happen to any of you, but a disclaimer should be put out for anyone who's willing to play against those who have a Boros Convoke deck, or be willing to play against anyone who plays Boros in general in the Pioneer format. This is dangerous stuff we're working with here, people. But let's talk about what makes that dangerous, shall we? In this week's episode. This week's episode is brought to you by Magic Man. Work sucks. How about some bucks? Alright, back to you, Magic Man. Okay, so let's talk about the cards, shall we? One of my favorite cards in this deck is probably the lowest cost creature card you're ever going to cast on the motherfucking battlefield. And it's Ornithopter. Yes, Ornithopter. For 0 mana, you get yourself a 0/2 flyer, and on turn 1, you can sack it to Gleeful Demolition, one of the second best cards in all of the format. I think in another video you may have heard me mention what the first one was. Yes, Experimental Frenzy, one of the finest enchantments in all the land. And since we're on the topic of enchantments, let's go ahead and talk about my second favorite card in this deck. That's right, Legion's Landing. For a cool $3.50 a piece, go ahead and throw 2 of these in your deck. I know you don't see it on the main attraction boards, aka MTG Top 8. No one's really running this anymore, but let me tell you something. If you want to crank out some tokens, and your back's against the wall like mine has been in every one of these freaking games on Arena, you're going to love Legion's Landing, because when you're top decking nothing but lands, and they've wiped out your creatures, at least you get out a 1/1 vampire with lifelink. Alright, so that's pretty freaking cool. And let's see here. Let's get back to the other card I mentioned earlier, Gleeful Demolition. This card is by far the coolest thing, because you're shitting out 3 goblins, okay, for the cost of 1 artifact. How can you go wrong? The answer is you can't. So play this card, don't be a dummy, and let's move on to the next card. That's right, Resolute Reinforcements. You can flash this in on your opponent's end step, surprise him with a couple of 1/1s, and then bash him in with this guy right here. That's right, Immodane's Recruiter, because he don't care about nobody. He's coming in with +1/+0 for all your creatures and giving them haste. I mean, how's this deck even lose? How do you people lose with this deck? That's what I want to know, because I ain't losing. I'm doing nothing but winning with this freaking thing. And you can too, if you add this next card. Venerated Loxodon! Venerated Loxodon! It's coming at you hard, it's coming at you fast, it's coming at you as a big chunky freaking, what is this, elephant cleric? Alright, that's gotta be some sort of typo. Anyway, the next card is Knight Errant of Eos. This card's especially cool because it just does everything you want in a Convoke creature. It reads, when Knight Errant of Eos enters the battlefield, look at the top 6 cards in your library. You may reveal up to 2 creature cards with mana value X or less from among them, where X is the number of creatures convoked this way. My God, you basically become unstoppable. This card is fantastic, and it needs to be a 4 of in every Boros Convoke deck. If you're not running that, you didn't come to play, you didn't come to win. Alright? Now, there are times where I have 5 creatures on the board, and they're kind of weak. They're a bunch of 1/1s. Granted, I shouldn't be talking smack about it, because those 1/1s do get pretty chunky with enough help. So what you can do is convoke 5 of those freaking things with this guy, and then get an Immodane's Recruiter, get a Venerated Loxodon, and just keep tapping all your creatures as if they were mana to convoke the this deck. So, you're welcome. That's the deck tech. Now let's see how fast this freaking thing can win. I think we got a pretty good shot at kind of messing things up for a turn or two. So we'll see what happens. And just like that, we won. The deck is that fast. Thank you and good night, everyone. We did it!